Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of M365 Voice. My name is Sarah Hazy.
And I am Mike Manavani.
And I'm Antonio Mayo.
All right, and for this episode, instead of taking a question from our question jar, we're going to share with all of you something that we spend a lot of time talking about when we're not on air, which is it's 2021 now, right? We have a lot of hope of some point this year being able to get together in person and be able to see friends and do conferences again in person. So we're going to talk a little bit about events we have coming up and what our hopes are in terms of vaccines and being able to see one another again in person.
So before we start that, I want to ask, when was the last time that we were all in person together?
It was St. Louis.
In January 2020. Yes.
That's right. January 2020 in St. Louis for SharePoint Saturday, St. Louis.
Correct.
Right.
It was a great weekend, and thank goodness we had booked that, because otherwise it would have been December of 2019 in Chicago for SharePoint Chicago. So I'm glad that we had the St. Louis trip. It was literally right before everything with COVID started to shut down within a month.
That's right. Yeah. 3 of us were there.
And we barely usually do any sightseeing when you go to the SharePoint Saturdays. We just fly in, do the session, and fly out. And we spent a little bit of time there and did some sightseeing. So that's good call.
We did. We went to the Arch in St. Louis. I remember going up the Arch.
Yep. And I had my daughter with me, so it was fun. We had kind of it was a good friend trip and a kind of a family weekend all at the same time.
Exactly.
It was a wonderful trip. All right, so maybe before we get talking, because I know it'll be a recurring theme, we should remind people that we live in different countries. So the realities of being able to travel are somewhat different. So I'm in the States, I'm in Minnesota, and already vaccinated. So I'm a little bit more sitting in a slightly better position, because do you want to tell the story about where you're from and the unique challenges that your country?
Yes, so Mike and I are both from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and we're both here now in separate homes, of course, and it's much harder to get the vaccine here. Supplies have been tough. I think the government's approach or process to registering has been a little bit tough as well. So the country's getting there, but I don't think neither of us have a vaccine yet, do we, Mike?
No, I'm still waiting. Just registered myself yesterday. Don't have any hopes to get any vaccine for the next 3 to 4 weeks, but hopefully.
Yeah. And the second doses are pushed out 4 months after the first one?
Yes, that makes it more frustrating because it's a 4 months period to do that.
This
and I
is
think
where
we're the only country in the world.
And it isn't even for Canada, and I'll be honest, because I've been to Canada many times. I've been to Ottawa for events. I've been to Montreal for events. Even having a vaccinated person travel into Canada, or even when you get vaccinated, leaving Canada and going back in is very difficult, right? Due to the security measures of entry into Canada due to COVID.
Yeah,
that is correct.
Required to quarantine for 14 days. Not only that, you have to actually go stay at a quarantine hotel. You can't it's not just honor system, go quarantine on your own. You're forced to quarantine. And there's some serious fines, I think, if you break.
Yeah, and knowing some people that traveled back, so you have to stay in the hotel for 3 days, and that can cost you up to $2,000. Yeah. So that's really a big number. Then you have to quarantine at home for 14 days. And when you get into the airport, they force you to actually install an app, and they want to track you. They track you if you're at home or not. So you have to give it an address, and you have to stay at home.
Jack?
Oh yeah, and they do calls.
I never thought of it that way. You get LoJack.
I don't even have to on LoJack. I mean, that's something else.
Yeah.
Yes, and they drop like unexpected visits as well. So
I didn't know that part.
Yeah, it happened to a couple of guys I know that got a knock on the door.
Yeah, and we've talked about this because even me traveling to Canada, I'd have to spend like a couple of weeks probably in one of the gateway COVID hotels. Yeah. Even though I'm vaccinated to quarantine. So we are very excited about this topic of talking about conferences because we're excited about the potential to actually see one another in person this year.
Exactly.
So why don't we kind of start with what do we think we have? What are we committed to from a speaking and an attending perspective that we're hoping to be in? Are they virtual, hybrid, or in person?
So the first one that comes to mind is the M365 Marathon that's taking place next week. I think all of us are speaking there, but that's a purely virtual event, right?
It's a virtual event. They did it last year. They did it, I think last year it was much bigger. They tried to run it like 24/7. And but this is still an international event from the language specific. So you have multiple languages as well. It's not only English. And I think we have over 300 sessions.
Wow.
That's a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many tracks there are?
I don't know. I haven't looked at it yet.
I'm just curious.
I know I'm speaking, but I haven't actually looked at how many tracks.
So then I think the next one is the Microsoft 365 Collaboration Conference. That's being held June 8 to 10. It's actually going to be a hybrid event. So they're actually going to have people in person at the Walt Disney World Swan and Dolphin Resort.
Wow.
And they will have some speakers that are remote, and they will have some people that are there in person. So if you're dying to go to an in-person conference, the first hybrid or in-person conference that I know of is this Microsoft 365 Collaboration Conference in Orlando in June.
Wow, that it feels like so long since we've done that.
Yes.
Maybe I would love to get to that, but I don't know if our border will be opened up.
Right. I will be speaking. I believe all of us are speaking at that event, but I know I will not be going in person. And I think both of you, at least at this point, are going to be virtual for that as well.
Correct. Yes, both of us are virtual. So that's another good one. There is the North American Collaboration Summit in Branson that is happening in August as well. And that is in person, and there is a virtual track as well.
Yeah. That's a really good conference. I've never been in person. Last year was the first time I spoke at it, and it ended up being virtual because of the lockdowns. They originally weren't going to do virtual, but then because of the border being shut down, they opened that up for folks like Mike and myself to speak at it. It's actually a really good event that gets put on. It's not huge, but you get good speakers and a really well-run event.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I think based on our conversations, we think that that's the most likely one that will feature hopefully all three of us speaking at, because all of us are speaking at it, and hopefully, fingers crossed, in person in August in Branson, Missouri. So that one should be fun.
Yeah. Then
we've got SharePoint Fest, which has 3 in-person conferences planned for this year. Mike, do you know when those are and in what cities?
Chicago is end of July.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully I can make it in person. There's still hope. It's a good conference. Love SP Fest as well.
Yeah.
And we have SP Fest is happening also in September.
In DC. Yep.
In DC. Sorry, I did not say DC. So in September in DC. And we have SP Fest Dallas in October.
That's right.
So definitely will be there for DC and Dallas in person.
Yes.
Dallas is when? October, did you say?
October.
I'd love to get back to Dallas.
That's right, because you used to live in Dallas, right?
I used to. That's right. I miss Dallas.
So the hope would be that all 3 of those are going to be in-person events, and fingers crossed, if your vaccine hurry up plans work there in Ottawa, maybe we can even make the Chicago July event happen, because that would be amazing if we could.
That would be. Nice. Chicago's so nice in the summer too, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And then what else do we have?
There's the European Collaboration Conference.
Oh, yes.
That's right. That's at the end of November into early December in Germany.
Yeah.
Yep. And then there's another Microsoft 365 Collaboration Conference in early December, Mike, right?
Yeah, that's early December. That's Vegas.
Yeah.
I will definitely be there. Whether I'm speaking or not, it will be there.
Vegas or bust. And it feels like, how often in a typical year pre-COVID were we in Vegas for a conference? I think it was almost every year or year and a half for like a decade. And so to not be in Vegas now for 2 years just feels so strange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in Vegas so often. I was sick. I got sick of Vegas. Like.
Yeah, same here. And this is just for the audience that don't know it. This is the SharePoint conference, rebranded as the M365 Collab conference.
Yes.
Right. That's right. Yeah. So hopefully, Microsoft is usually a big presence at that conference too, with a lot of speakers, big booth area, announcements, big keynotes there too. So hopefully that happens with them also. I don't know if it would be the same without them there, because it adds a lot of kind of, I don't know, grandeur to the conference.
So that's kind of the bigger events. SharePoint Saturdays, I'll be honest, I know I help organize SharePoint Saturday Twin Cities, and you both help with Ottawa. I haven't heard anything. I just don't know when we're going to be able to get back to those smaller in-person events in individual cities. Yeah,
those are harder. We usually rely on free or inexpensive or, higher education space, college space, for example, in order to run them. And that's a whole other ball of wax to open up. So hopefully, but yeah, I haven't heard anything on that front.
Yeah, same here.
What about Ignite? Have we heard anything about the next Ignite?
No.
I love
it. The last virtual Ignite, in March of 2021, early March.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything. I guess I'm going to be a little bit surprised if it'll be this fall. I mean, maybe fall of 2021 in person, but I'm thinking maybe more 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 2022 in person, and mostly maybe not. I would be surprised if it'd be early. Probably be late 2022.
Yeah. Well, we had one last October. And then we had another one in March. So we had two really close together. So yeah, I think you're right. It'll be 2022 sometime by the time they have another one.
So, and it's interesting because one thing we've talked about this on the show before, that it's amazing because we actually don't live that far from one another, normally speaking, because Minnesota and Canada, usually Minnesota's kind of south, we joke it's South Canada.
South Canada.
But never have we felt, we've always traveled back and forth between Canada and the US so freely. We have never felt more separated than we have in the past year with COVID, with the border rules. And maybe for other people in other countries, that's a much bigger deal to get visas and to be able to travel. But for us, it's just never been even a consideration to go between Canada and the US.
Yeah, exactly. It was a natural travel. It was no big deal. Crossing the borders, it was just like going to work.
Yeah, literally. It was if I'm flying to Toronto or I'm flying to New York, it was the same thing. It's, little slightly further to fly to New York, and I have to go through customs, but it honestly wasn't much of a different.
That's right. It's a good thing we're not aging during this COVID time, so.
Definitely not.
No, I'm standing still. But definitely looking forward to getting back to traveling around. One of the things I miss is just, been working remotely for a long time, right, as a consultant, but it's different working remotely from home all the time than working remotely on the go. And I miss that working, where if I had my laptop and my phone and my backpack and my notebook, I could work from anywhere. Right? I could work at the airport, I could work at a Starbucks, I could work at a restaurant, I could work at home, I could work in my company's office, I could work in another client's office. And that being on the go, or working at a conference, that being on the go was exciting. It was motivating. It was, I don't know, it was a nice feeling to be able to think, I can work wherever I am. And the work's enjoyable to me. So I miss that, being on the go and be able to work wherever.
Yeah, because travel, you break into the routine. So you're changing the sceneries, you're getting more motivated because one is you're looking forward to do something else, something different, even though you might be working remotely for the same client or same project, but you're doing it somewhere else. It's more exciting that way.
It definitely is. And we spend a lot of time talking offline about this, but how much you miss being able to go out for coffee, go out for drinks, go out for dinner, because we do a lot of that when we're traveling at conferences, right? We drink a lot of coffee, we go out to dinner a lot, we get drinks a lot. So that's certainly something that we miss. And it's hard when you have such good friends that are more separated than we normally ever are. Because frankly, it's normally we see each other more easily sometimes than you see friends that live in your local area because we travel so much for conferences.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We developed a lot of friendships in this community. Just and like you said, it happened to me many times that I've seen friends from the community more than friends in the city.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the community, it's, the SharePoint community, well, now the M365 community, which I think started off more as a SharePoint community before, if I can say that. The Exchange people might be mad at me, but whatever. But, all three of us has been part of that community more than a decade. And you meet a lot of people and you make close friends, like the three of us. And we see each other at conferences. Like I used to speak at, I don't know, between 20 and 30 conferences a year, right? Which is a lot of travel and a lot of events, but you get to see the same people often, and you hang out and you go for drinks and you go for dinners and you
get
chat
to meet each other's kids and you get to know kids and then your family friends, and then you come and travel to their city, and
that's right.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, we pre-plan it. Like we used to pre-plan the travel, so we all know that we are going in the same city. So let's plan something. Let's get there a day before or leave a day after and plan something.
Yeah. And we know that Mike chooses the best hotels to stay at. So anytime that we plan on going somewhere, Mike always is the one that chooses the hotel in Antonio, and I just book there. So
that's right.
Exactly. You learn how these things go.
Yeah. Well, anyway. I like MVP Summit. I'm hoping to get back to that one in person. That's when I really miss being in person, right? Like a lot of the other conferences, okay, I miss being in person, but I always enjoyed going to MVP Summit, where you would see MVPs from all over the world. And, although we would get to see each other at conferences in North America, there's lots from Europe and Australia that I would only see there.
Yeah.
And you knew that people would show up a day early and go skiing the day before. I never did that, but I knew other people that did that. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun. So hope to get back to those things.
That's the hope. That's the hope for this year. So this has been a great topic. I love covering something that's a little bit more personal about things than hopes and wishes that we have for 2021. We want to make sure that people stay healthy and make great choices, especially still, since we're still in the middle of this. But great topic, and hope that this year is going to bring in-person visits.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We hope you come back for our next episode. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.